Hello. Welcome. If this is live, please let me know. I have a special Friday live for you guys. I've put together a show to kind of bring together what is happening right now in the geopolitics world, having to do with the ceasefire and the relationship between Russia and the United States. So please let me know if you can hear me. Please let me know where you're watching from. We're gonna let people load in. I have a segment. It's gonna be a detailed segment. It's gonna give us a timeline why this is happening. I like it because it's military talk, but it's also geopolitics, and it's also your guys' opinion and my opinions. But I have quite the show for you, so let me know how everything is. And by the way, if you see my pinky on my left hand closed, is because I cut my finger. I slid it all the way to the fat, but now it's coming back. I have sensation in it again, and yes. So, hello guys from Indonesia, from Canada. Nice. Remember, guys, as you're loading in, let us know where you're watching from, and we're gonna begin the show here in about 2 minutes. Now, the reason why I'm enjoying doing these lives is because we've been having a lot of success with you guys taking part in them. You guys have been engaging with each other a lot. You've been engaging with the channel a lot more, and I just actually enjoy the lives more than anything else now. So I think it's a really good way to connect with you guys, and especially about current events like these that are really important, because if you're watching, you must like either Russia or you must be planning a visit to Russia soon. So these type of lives can certainly help you in your future trip. Hello to Tbilisi, Georgia. Hello from Texas. Nice. Florida. Really cool. And yes, today we're going to be going over the recent events, and we're going to get started now. So first of all, I want to let you guys know this huge talk about a ceasefire. In my opinion, it's a sign of desperation from the West or NATO side, because it knows that its troops were surrounded in the Kursk region and they've been overran, right? I had talked about this militarily, that the Russians have been double enveloping its enemies. But not only double enveloping, this would be perhaps the second time that they've used either tunnels, or third time that they used tunnels or pipelines to get behind enemy lines and totally surprise the enemies. And now it doesn't come to me as a surprise that they want to cease fire. Okay, so we're going to be watching a little bit of what's been happening in the front lines. But this ceasefire is absolute desperation from the West. You have to understand that a ceasefire right now does not benefit Russia at all. And I'm going to be tying this historically to a past retreat that ended up biting the person who allowed the enemy to leave in the butt. So let's go ahead and show you what I'm referencing here. The biggest update in the front line was, of course, the pipeline that was used. This was about 4 days ago. This happened in the Kursk region. And we're just going to take a look at that. So, here we go. Again, please let me know what the sound is like when we turn it on, okay?
Yes.
Here we go.
В трубе. Труба куда ведет? На суджу. Это же ё... Никогда бы не подумал.
Если хочет останься просто так. Мне кажется, что мы в год.
So if you're just tuning in, guys, what we're doing here is talking about the last 4 days, last 5 days that are leading to this ceasefire. A lot of you guys keep up with the recent news. That was actually a gas pipeline. Is the sound still good? I changed it to the microphone on the computer. They essentially let out all of the gas from the pipe. It was a major operation. They had planned it. They had planned it for a while. The engineer corps of the Russian Federation certainly had to do a lot of work for this job. So what I'm trying to get at is what happened in the Kursk region was absolutely a great victory for Russia. I'll tell you why, because Ukraine tried to use the territory it seized as a bargaining chip. Now, what happens when you don't have that territory anymore, right? So this is causing the Russians to have the upper hand. And what happens next is you see the ceasefire really being pushed by NATO and the United States. Why? Because there's so much armament that is left in the Kursk region. They're in full retreat. I will give you an example. In the United States military, when we left Afghanistan, we left billions of dollars. What Ukrainians want to do is be able to take all of that equipment out, but they're not going to get to do it. Why? Because Russia, again, did not accept the ceasefire. Now, I'm going to give you guys an example of a mistake. Okay? I'm going to give you guys an example of a mistake. Then we're going to read your guys' questions and your guys' comments. But this is a historical event, and I'm pretty sure a lot of you guys know this. Please comment in the comments chat if you know about this. The retreat at Dunkirk was probably one of the Germans' biggest blunders. They allowed the Allies to leave the beach thinking that they were going to be in the good graces if they let them go. Okay, this was a major failure. A ceasefire can sometimes bite you in the ass. And this is why, my friends, there should be absolutely no ceasefire for the Russians. They need to really finish the job in the Kursk region. Now, we are talking about a ceasefire, and I'm relating the Dunkirk retreat with the Ukrainian retreat because essentially what the NATO wants is another Dunkirk. They want their troops to be able to leave the pocket, and this is not going to happen. This is not going to happen. The Russians have really worked the Kursk front brilliantly. They've double enveloped them. They even went behind them and they caused major panic. So, hey, Inverted Ivan. Oh, you changed the name, but listen. If you're just joining us, we're talking about the ceasefire, why it didn't work, why it's happening now, and why Russia benefits from not having a ceasefire. I, as an American living in Russia, of course, I want the conflict to end, but militarily speaking, there is no way that I would support the Russians ceasefiring right now. And let's move on to any questions that you guys may have or some comments, guys. You heard my why I believe they want a ceasefire. What do you guys think? Go ahead and give me your opinion on the chat right now, and I'll read some of your guys' opinions. But in my opinion, really, it's because Ukraine has no more bargaining chips. The Kursk front has absolutely collapsed, and they want to be able to retreat their men. This doesn't benefit Russia at all. Russia should accept a ceasefire only after Kiev regime totally defeated. Absolutely agree with that. Do you think they will take it to the Dnieper? I think the Dnieper is a really good border, so it would be a really good place to stop. Yes, so a lot of you guys are agreeing with this, and you guys agree that Russia should not push the brakes. So let's move on to... Yes, Russia is not going to fall into this trap. We're going to be looking at the interview now that the president of the Russian Federation, Vladimir Putin, had with some press. And just to summarize exactly what's happening on the front there, I'm gonna see here one of President Vladimir Putin's most iconic lines now, I believe. Let's see here. He essentially lets everybody know that you better surrender or die. And by the way, can you imagine a leader of a country saying surrender or die? That's iconic. That's like a real leader. I don't know, when you guys see this, tell me what you think, because when I heard him say this, I was like, gee whiz, this is some legitimate stuff. So here we go, guys. We're gonna look at this clip. This is the Russians taking back Suja, different parts of Suja. And the president of the Russian Federation visits the commanders in the Kursk region.
Вот этот весь сектор уже все. Вот наша уже группа, вот.
Там ситуация полностью под нашим контролем. И группировка, которая вторглась на нашу территорию, находится в изоляции. Это полная изоляция и полный огневой контроль. Техника брошена полностью. Вывести ее невозможно. Она там останется. Это уже гарантированно. А если в ближайшие дни произойдет физическое блокирование, то выйти вообще никто не сможет. Будет только два способа: сдаться в плен или погибнуть.
So he says it there and then. The Ukrainian troops have only two options: surrender or die. Now, this lets us know the state of mind that the president of the Russian Federation is in, because this is the 13th of March. And all the ceasefire information and all of these things, it doesn't really benefit Russia. And you can see he's not going to step on the brakes. He's letting them know you're either going to surrender or you're going to die. It sets the precedent of what he's actually going to answer. He wants to finish the job. We have heard him say that he wants to demilitarize Ukraine, and you don't do that by ceasefiring, right? So what do you guys think about that? What do you guys think about that? What do you guys think about Putin's words, surrender or die? Does that surprise you as a world, like a country's leader? You don't really hear a lot of leaders talk this way. Tiago da Silva says, what do you think about Putin wearing military uniform? Yeah, that's another thing that really puts things into reality, because usually even when he's inspecting some of the troops, he's not in his military uniform. But for a short clip, actually, he went to visit his commanders and he was wearing the military attire. We often see the leader of Ukraine, what do we call him on this channel? The ungrateful goblin. The ungrateful goblin wears wannabe military attire, but Vladimir, the president of the Russian Federation, Vladimir Putin, he actually wore the digital camouflage, and it looked really good on him. I was actually really happy to see that. So Tiago, what do I think about it? I think it was really cool. I think that he's showing that, hey, he's in it to win it. Yeah, he's done it in the past, but I think it's a lot more meaningful because of the area that he was in. And yes, by the way, guys, in this channel, we don't call the leader of Ukraine by any name other than the ungrateful goblin. This was coined by some of our viewers, and it's the absolute best. It's the absolute best. Any variant of goblin and ungrateful, looting goblin, the green goblin, everything is fair game here. Just keep it PG Goblin, and you're not going to have any problems. So we're going to continue on with the program, and we're going to be looking actually at the press conference that he had, the legitimate press conference. The president of the Russian Federation and the president of Belarus had a press conference, and they asked him about the ceasefires and his intentions, what he was going to do going forward. This is translated to English. We're going to be watching this and we're going to be listening, and I'll be reading your guys' opinion and I'll be giving you my opinion. Okay? So right now, I hope you guys are enjoying the show. Please do remember to consider hitting like, and we're going to continue on with the show. If you haven't, by the way, seen this press conference, watch it on your own time as well later if you'd like.
The first question to Vladimir Vladimirovich: how do you assess Ukraine's readiness to ceasefire? Have you already received information from the Americans, and what will your response be? There is also a second question I ask you, Alexander Grigorievich, and you, Vladimir Vladimirovich, to answer. Do Moscow and Minsk coordinate their positions on the peace process, and have any corresponding consultations possibly already been held today? Thank you. As for Ukraine's readiness to ceasefire, I will, of course, express my assessment of it. But first of all, I would like to begin with words of gratitude to the President of the United States, Mr. Trump, for devoting so much attention to the settlement in Ukraine.
У всех у нас хватает своих текущих дел.
All of us have enough of our own current affairs, but many state leaders, the chairman of the People's Republic of China, the Prime Minister of India, the presidents of Brazil and the Republic of South Africa are engaged in this issue and dedicate considerable time to it.
Мы всем им за это благодарны, потому что это деятельность направлена на достижение благородной миссии.
We are grateful to all of them for this because this activity is aimed at achieving a noble mission, the mission of ending hostilities and human losses. That is the first point.
Прекратить боевые действия. Но исходим из того, что это прекращение должно быть.
We agree with the proposals to cease hostilities, but we proceed from the premise that this cessation should lead to a long-term peace and eliminate the initial causes of this crisis. Now, regarding Ukraine's readiness to cease hostilities.
Американо-украинская встреча в Саудовской Аравии.
You know, the U.S.-Ukraine meeting in Saudi Arabia may outwardly seem like a decision made by the Ukrainian side under American pressure.
Под американским давлением. На самом деле убежден абсолютно в том, что украинская.
We'll pause it there. There are some key things that I want to mention that it's kind of mind-blowing. I recently did an interview with another channel, and they asked, can Russia and America be in good terms? And I said, well, the patience that the Russian government has had is the only reason why Russia could be on good terms with the United States. If you don't know, the United States did agree to arm Ukraine again, and it did agree to help the Ukrainians again because the Ukrainians agreed to a ceasefire, and probably they worked their crazy greedy deals behind closed doors. Well, the reality is that the president of the Russian Federation, Vladimir Putin, is saying to the public, by the way, I appreciate Donald Trump, but he understands that even Donald Trump is arming the Ukrainians still. It's a very strange situation to be in the shoes of the Russian Federation, the president, okay? Because the president, Vladimir Putin, has to essentially shake hands with the West and get slapped behind the head at the same time. And we see this in this problem where Russia is agreeing, okay, we can do a ceasefire, but it has to be long term. There's no such thing as a ceasefire. For the Russians, it's not ceasefire, it's victory. And for the United States and NATO, it's, okay, what can we do to get us a little bit of breathing time? This is the problem. that Russia has been playing way too nice, but I think it's only a temporary problem, because in the end, when this is all done, I believe that it's going to benefit Russia because it didn't act maliciously. Okay, maybe a lot of you will not want to agree with this, but I feel that Russia has not been malicious in this. They have played their cards absolutely brilliantly. They haven't overextended aggression. They've never threatened the world. You know what I'm saying? I've never saw any hate towards me throughout all of this escalation of these last 3 years. Yeah, anyways, we already know, we already call it a proxy war. We don't have to say that all over again. So, let's go ahead and continue with this interview. But I hope you guys are enjoying this. Again, if you've never watched these videos, you can watch them by yourself later. But we are going to be watching this. This is only about 8 minutes. We are 1/4 of the way finished. Let me know if you're enjoying it.
In reality, I am absolutely convinced that the Ukrainian side must have been requesting this from the Americans in the most insistent manner, based on the situation that is unfolding on the ground, as has just been mentioned here. And how is it unfolding?
Вот наверняка многие заметили, видели, что вчера я был
Surely many have noticed and seen that yesterday I was in the Kursk region, listening to reports from the chief of the general staff, the commander of the North Group, and his deputy regarding the situation in the border area, primarily in the Kursk region, or rather, in the zone of incursion into the Kursk region.
в зоне вклинения в Курской области. Что там происходит? Там ситуация полностью
What is happening there?
под контролем. И
The situation is completely under our control, and the group that invaded our territory is in isolation.
Это полная изоляция и полный
It is complete isolation and full fire control.
огневой контроль. Управление войсками
Command over the Ukrainian troops inside this incursion zone has been lost.
внутри этой зоны вторжения утрачено. И если на первых этапах
And while in the early stages, literally a week or two ago, Ukrainian servicemen were trying to leave in small groups, now this is impossible.
теперь это невозможно. Они пытаются выйти оттуда.
They are now attempting to escape in very small groups, 2 or 3 people, because everything is under our full fire control. The equipment has been completely abandoned. It is impossible to remove it, and it will remain there. That is already guaranteed. And if physical encirclement occurs in the coming days, then no one will be able to leave at all.
Yes, he's talking about possible complete encirclement. Now, I personally don't believe that this is going to last into 5 years. I predicted major battles, and major battles, people get deleted, and unfortunately, more people have to get deleted. Thank you, Chantel. Anyways, the reality that we're all in right now is Vladimir Putin, the president of the Russian Federation, replied with no ceasefire. Now, I'm going to be showing you a video, which I think it's actually really funny, is President Trump answering, what if Russia says no ceasefire? Okay? And this to me is comical, because for a lot of us who have been living in Russia for 2, 3, 4 years, or since the SMO started, a lot of us have known about sanctions. Now I'm going to show you this, and I'm going to try not to smile and laugh because it's pathetic, but you have to understand, this is the reply from Donald Trump. Hey, brother Mehdi. Welcome, brother. Welcome. Okay, we're going to see what Donald Trump has to say if Russia doesn't agree to a ceasefire. I want to warn you, it's absolutely ridiculous and embarrassing. Oh, one last thing. When I play this video, tell me if the sound is okay, please. I can adjust the volumes, I think. Here we go.
that it was now up to Russia in terms of the ceasefire.
Yeah.
Is there anything you can do in terms of pressuring Russia or in terms of
Yeah.
sanctions? Or what can you do?
We can, but I hope it's not going to be necessary. There are things you could do that wouldn't be pleasant in a financial sense. I can do things financially that would be very bad for Russia. I don't want to do that because I want to get peace. I want to see peace, and we'll see. But in a financial sense, yeah, we could do things very bad for Russia. It would be devastating for Russia, but I don't want to do that because I want to see peace. And we're getting close to maybe getting something done. We've got Ukraine done, and as you know, I've always said that Ukraine might have been the more difficult party. You were here a week ago when some interesting things happened. I had somebody that didn't seem to want peace. Now he's agreed to peace. We had a great success yesterday. We have a full ceasefire if it kicks in. We have to see. It's up to Russia now. But we've had a good relationship with both parties, actually, and we'll see. We'll be knowing people are going to Russia right now as we speak, and hopefully we can get a ceasefire from Russia. And if we do, I think that would be 80% of the way to getting this horrible bloodbath finished. It's a bloodbath is taking place over there.
I want to know your assessment. When you take this deal to him now, how do you assess the chances of doing this?
I have no assessment, and I don't go by chances. I think it makes sense for Russia, a lot of downside for Russia, too. And we have a very complex situation solved on one side, pretty much solved. We've also discussed land and other things that, go with it. We're not just doing it and saying ceasefire. We don't know what's happening. We know the areas of land we're talking about, whether it's pulled back or not pulled back. We've discussed a lot of the details of what has to go because we don't want to be wasting time.
Okay, so can somebody tell me why I think it's funny? Can somebody tell me what is so funny about an American president saying a certain word? I feel like it's 2022 again. Can somebody say the word? Because I am so over this word. When this was happening in 2022 and they were saying the S word, the S word, the S word, the S word, I was like, okay, let's see what happens. Because I've lived here since the beginning of this, and they just popped out the S word, the S word, the S word, the S word. This is the most ridiculous thing. This is the most ridiculous thing. The reason why I think it's funny is they use it as a boogeyman word. The West loves to use the word sanction as if the world should be terrorized by this. Sanctions work on a country that is absolutely small, perhaps an island. Sanctions work perhaps on a country that is not a nuclear power. Sanctions work perhaps in a country that has very low population. But sanctions would probably not work on the largest country in the world, probably the most resource-rich country in the world, and probably not a country that has already experienced sanctions for the last 10 years at least, right? So when they talk about sanctions again, it's like, come on, man. There has to be something else that you can bring to the table for yourself, because it's starting to sound really pathetic. A lot of us who have lived in Russia for the last 3 years, we've had to deal with a little bit of inflation, of course, and of course the sanctions will target other things. So we're going to see what exactly the Trump administration is going to be targeting with these new sanctions. I popped up an article for you guys. We're going to read through it. And if you're just tuning in, guys, we're going over the sanctions, the ceasefire deals, why it's happening. We're going to go back and revisit the beginning, but right now we're going to be looking at the actual sanctions that the Trump administration has put up, I guess, towards Russia. So let's look at this. Welcome, everybody. Well, you know what? Let's take another second here to say hello to everybody who's just tuning in. Welcome to the channel. Welcome all the channel members. Thank you to the support that we get from all of you guys. If you haven't said where you're watching from, please do remember to tell us. If you've never told us where you're watching from, let us know. We have the majority of the world watching, usually at least 4 continents usually tune in. Here we go. Yes, Matthew Lee, at least Trump is trying. I understand that, but that's a totally different thing. When you're trying to deal with Russia now, because Russia has proven itself to be a superpower, you don't treat Russia as the B side. You have to treat Russia as a win-win situation. That is what I'm talking about. When you come to Russia, don't try to be the upper hand. Come and see level-eyed, or else it's gonna go nowhere. Okay, here we go. USA, Missouri, North Dakota. Nice. I used to live in Newtown on the reservation. Dallas, Texas, tuning in. Lake Tahoe, California. South Africa. Oh, your name kind of gives it away. If China was what it was 40 years ago, maybe sanctions would have hurt, but not now. BRICS itself, yes, exactly. And I totally forgot about that, Mehdi. Mehdi's right. It would probably hurt a country that is not backed by its own economic group. So, what do Russians really think? If you want, Ginger, I'm going to be putting members video, give you guys a perception of my wife who's Russian. Nizhny Novgorod. Здравствуйте. Okay, here we go. Let's look at this article that was published. It says Trump administration toughens sanctions on Russian oil, gas, and banking sectors. So what the United States is aiming for is those main things that are moneymakers for the Russians. So Trump administration, it's going for Russian oil, gas, and the banking. Those are the 3 major things. Let's go ahead and go down here and read a little bit. It says, Washington, the Trump administration is placing more restrictions on Russia's oil, gas, and banking sectors by further restricting Russian access to the U.S. payment systems. That is ridiculous. They haven't been on SWIFT for a long time. According to 4 people familiar with the plans. Okay, sorry. The reference for this article is 4 people who know about the plans. I'm sorry, but this must be a credible news at CBS. This is credible for the West, okay? Stay with me. I am just reading what the crazies are writing in the West, okay? Let's continue reading, guys. The Treasury Department on Wednesday let lapse a 60-day exemption put in place by Biden administration in January that allowed specific energy transactions involving sanctioned Russian banks to continue. By letting the waiver lapse, the banks may no longer access U.S. payment systems to conduct major energy transactions. So, it seems that there was a loophole that was opened for selling and dealing. It was opened, and now it looks like they want to close it again. But in reality, we all know that if there's a will, there's a way, and usually the Russians always find a way anyways. Let's continue reading here. Hopefully this is not offending anybody. Here we go. The Russian financial institution that had been exempt from sanctions included, oh wow, Vneshekonombank, Bank Financial Corporation, Otkiraiti, something like this, Sovcombank, Sberbank, BTB Bank, Alpha Bank, Rosbank, Bank Zenit, Bank St. Petersburg, and the Central Bank of Russia. Okay, this is total nonsense. All of these banks were one way or another sanctioned because SWIFT you couldn't use with them. So it looks like they're just using old information, in my opinion, and they're making it sound like it's actually really, really hard for the Russians. But this looks like old news. All of those banks, at least the majority of them, I'll say, I know have not been connected with SWIFT and have not been able to make deals with the West for a long time. So, yeah. Pedro from Chile. Bienvenido, hermano. Bienvenido. What do you guys think? For you guys who are viewing from wherever you're viewing, how do you think sanctions affect Russia? If you don't live here, of course, do you think that this is the best way to punish Russia or makes Russia submit? My personal opinion is that it's not the best. If I wanted to end something or make somebody not my enemy, this is not the best way to do it, because you're only going to aggravate the population and the government. Long term, maybe there will be some resentment there. Absolutely dumb move by President Trump from the United States. And that's the point I'm trying to get at, is that if you continue going down the road that the other president went down, Russia is just going to view you as the same old useless leader. We saw President Putin speak really kindly of Donald Trump. He said, you know, he appreciates that President Donald Trump is trying to end this, but when he turns around and just does these dumb moves again, talking about sanctions, this is pathetic. I don't agree with it. I think that you shouldn't burn more bridges with the Russian Federation. I think that the United States has a lot to gain. The Russians of themselves are not the type of people who have resentment in their hearts. The Russian Federation has dealt for the last 3 years with the United States as it's armed Ukraine, and still it doesn't slap the Americans in the face. So, let's see what we have here. We're going to be taking a poll. Hopefully you guys can reply on the poll. It's going to be a really simple poll here. Hello, Daniel. That's my friend. Daniel has the same name as me. So I've done, oh, sorry. That's not the, I've made a mistake. Sorry, 1 second. We're supposed to do a poll. Here we go. I'm adding a poll. I want to know what you guys think. Is the President of the United States making a mistake by talking about sanctions towards Russia? Is this a mistake? In my opinion, it is absolutely a mistake. A lot of you guys maybe think perhaps it could be a good move, but personally, for the reasons that I've mentioned previously, burning bridges, talking about the old stuff that the other president was doing, this is an absolute disaster, a political disaster. He considers himself a good, negotiator, the art of the deal, and all of these things. But I don't know, perhaps he's acting, perhaps he's not all up there himself. But you have no more cards. As the leader of the United States, you don't have any more cards. The Russians are taking back the Kursk region. The Russians have all of the chips and the best cards in their hands. So this is not the time to be dealing like that. Let's see here. Thank you so much for the donation, Alexander. Trump wanted a ceasefire negotiation to start. He never expected the initial proposal to be accepted by Russia. I understand that, and it's a good initial way to get your enemy to the table, but because of the operation in the Kursk region, Alexander, I think it's the worst time. It's out of desperation that they do it now. You know what I'm saying? Now is not the best time for the Russians because they're on full offensive. We started this program talking about the tunnel that the gas pipe that the Russians used to infiltrate the Kursk region. We're going to be looking at that again. Here we go. For all of you guys that don't, for you guys who came late, the big reason why I believe the ceasefire is happening now is because of this. Because the Russians have the upper hand now, and the NATO and the United States want their allies to be able to fully retreat intact. But the Russians are on no brakes, all gas.
В трубе, труба куда ведет? На суджу. Это же никогда бы не подумал.
Если хочешь, останься просто так. Мне кажется, что мы в гору идем.
Man, what a crazy expedition for those guys. It has to be, such operations really have to be out of this world, man. It's crazy. Hopefully those guys are in good health. But let's continue here talking. I'm going to be reading now. Spend about 5 minutes reading your guys' comments and answering some of your guys' questions. I appreciate the donation there, brother. Please go ahead and ask a question. Feel free, guys. Yeah, so do you see some soldiers in the pipeline smoking? Yeah, it's pretty crazy because that pipeline, I guess, was flammable, should be flammable, even if it's holding different types of gases. Compressed, any type of compressed air gas can absolutely cause an explosion. So Alexander G, I'm going to be real with you. The ceasefire wasn't at all aimed at Russia. It was to bring EU to the negotiation piece rather than escalation. Yes, I always see the Europeans absolutely different than the Americans, right? The Europeans are in their own world, and recently they started their own projects. The Europeans are like the chihuahuas of this conflict. They're just always barking and try to bite at your knees. I recently did an interview with The Real Reporter, and I called the Baltic states the barking chihuahuas. We all know them as that. But I think all of Europe is basically chihuahuas now, or small to medium-sized dogs. They are absolutely annoying, and they're just trying to get into the table. Oh man, thank you so much for the donation, brother. Thank you so much. Okay, here we go. Hayes, Russian Life 2024. Be sure to ask a question if you'd like, brother. Thank you so much. If you come visit, you know you have a friend in Irkutsk Oblast. Do you think this war will end through negotiations or the military, or will there be a military solution? I believe that this conflict could end with unconditional surrender if the Russians prolong it enough and absolutely defeat the Ukrainian military in one more major battle. It's really, really close, my friend. It's really, really close. This Kursk offensive that the Ukrainians did cost them a lot of manpower, a lot of equipment as well. So we're looking at a Ukraine that is a shadow of its former self. Does anybody have any more questions? Let's see. I have my... He says, Ginger, moved to Russia, and about Trump, we had no illusions. We knew the sanctions would not be lifted. Trump quietly tightened the existing sanctions against Russia. Yes. You really do an honest take on this issue. Yes, I try my best to be honest, because actually I have no dog in this fight, right? I know I'm an American. I know I live in Russia, but I have my honor and my my respect towards myself, you know. I'm not one of these puppets that says whatever people want to hear. I'm a straight shooter, and I tend to go right down the middle, and if I'm taught something, then I correct myself. So I appreciate you being kind, brother. What do I think about Oreshnik? Oreshnik, what is this? A bomb? Yes, it is the I don't know what ton it is, how much tonnage of explosives it has, but I think that all explosives are awesome. I'm a combat engineer, so I like booms. Yes, I know it, Hazel. Yes, I love demolition, and I love explosives. So go ahead, guys, and ask a few more questions, and we'll continue with the show. So far, I'm really enjoying this. We'll get back to the poll in a few minutes. I want everybody to be able to. I want everybody to be able to answer on the poll. It's really important that you shouldn't follow what other people like. If it's more percent towards one answer, don't worry about it. Answer always with your own opinion. Yeah, I love booms. Ginger, thank you so much. Thank you so much. You're always here for the lives. I really appreciate it. So yes, you know you mean a lot to us. Hey Dan, I hope you are well. Hope there is peace in Ukraine and Russia. I hope so as well. I want to show you guys something that's going to be a little bit controversial perhaps. There's let me try to find it first of all. Oh. 1 second. Let me get my setup right, guys. A bit of a complex philosophical question, but how idiotic of an ideology is democracy? Sir, some things are good, but the voting system is pure idiotic. Okay, about democracy, I will give you my opinion. I think perhaps it was Socrates or Aristotle. One of those guys didn't like democracy because you would have essentially a bunch of fools voting, right? And I agree with this. In a democracy, you do allow the lunatics to vote in masses, and this could kind of hurt things because if you are in the world of mass media, you can easily control brains in the world of mass media. So you have a lot of lunatics, and in a democracy is not so, how would I put it without sounding like a lunatic myself? I think that a democracy needs to be edited in the year 2024, 25, because we live in the world of mass media. So if we live in a world of mass media, I think we need to adjust the democracy, because even the government itself is like the book 1984, where it's like we were always... I'm lagging. 1 second. Let me get my setup. Let me get my setup, guys. Okay, bear with me for a second. Can you guys hear me? Let me see. Okay. Is my... Yes, I'm stuck. Yes, I see that. Okay, okay. I'm gonna try to fix this. I need to get a new computer, maybe. Okay, let's see. I think the video is gonna lag a little bit, but if you can hear me, just bear with me as I try to fix it, okay? I know that I'm lagging. I think it's because my computer's overheating. I'm sorry. Okay, we're gonna end the poll. I might, my connection might drop, guys. I'm sorry if it does. Let me know if you can hear me. Maybe let me know if I'm lagging. I'm gonna try to continue the show. It should be choppy still, maybe. I'm not sure. I'm gonna wait for the majority of you guys to let me know, okay? So I want to really get to that answer. You know, 1 second. So you guys see this? George Orwell, 1984, okay? And the question was, like, what do I think about the democracy? What we're looking at here is essentially what I believe is what's wrong with democracy, because in this book, spoiler alert, there's like a big brother who's always tuning into whatever people are doing, and it's trying to make people think a certain way. So in a world of mass media, a democracy can actually betray your country. And I don't believe that democracy the way it is now is the most effective way. And I think the government also knows it. And I think that the government does whatever it can to maintain the way the democracy is. So you want to edit democracy in modern age. That's all I have to say. Because if we have propaganda in the amount that we have it, there's no way a democracy is real, because you don't have a voting of the people who are intelligent enough or people who can think for themselves. So let's go ahead and ask some more questions, guys. If the live is still working, I would love to answer a few more questions before we get out of here. I have another live coming this Sunday. I'm going to be going live on a camping trip on the Lake Baikal. So if you guys want to tune in, it's going to be Sunday morning, I believe, for some of you guys. No, Saturday evening for some of you guys. I'm going to be on the lake, so it's going to be a good time. Right now, what we're going to be doing is looking at some more videos and answering some of your guys' questions. Here it is. Will I be fighting for the Russians? I'll be fighting for whoever tries to come to Siberia. I mean, whoever tries to come, I'll be fighting against them. And I would be on this side. I want to show you guys something that I found really, really interesting. Check this out, guys. I want to expose something that happened. You know, on YouTube, you have a lot of beef sometimes, and I happen to have beef with Ukrainians. No, I have a lot of beef with Americans who live in Ukraine. Okay, I'm saying it openly. I dislike Americans who live in Ukraine who point the finger at Russia all the time. I don't live in Russia and talk trash about Ukraine all the time. I don't live in Russia and speak ill about the Ukrainian government or all of these things. I don't do this because it's none of my business unless it's like a military analysis. But I don't say, if you live in Ukraine, you're a traitor. If you live in Ukraine, no. But recently, there was an American, I think he's American, him and I, we went back and forward. So it's this guy here. And I'm going to show you, I'm exposing myself, but I can't stand this guy. So I wrote in the comment section, it's interesting to see Americans in Ukraine. Let me see, 1 second. I'm going to read this to you guys. I wrote in this comment, it's interesting to see Americans in Ukraine talking still from the wrong perspective. So I'm letting him know that I believe that he's talking from the wrong perspective because that video is asking for fundraiser for Ukraine and it's condemning Russia. So anyways, this is my opinion. You can take it as it is. The truth is literally coming out now, and the United States is making peace with Russia because it should have never happened. I pray the war ends and Ukraine and Russia don't deserve to be in the proxy war for NATO. So I openly told this dumb American, I said, you know, Russia and, oh, sorry. So I said, the truth is literally coming out now, and the United States is making peace with Russia because this should have never happened. I pray the war ends and Ukraine and Russia don't deserve to be in a proxy war for NATO. So I'm letting him know that I know that my country instigated a proxy war between these two countries. But he's in the Ukrainian mentality, and these are Americans that I hate because they are leeching off of this. The Americans that are in Ukraine right now are either sex tourists, are property investors, or they're out to do something really crazy, collect organs, buy weapons. If you're in Ukraine right now, you're up to no good. I can't be doing that kind of stuff in Russia. And I'm saying this, man, because I called him out, and let's see how he replies. Dan, let's see here. Says, Dan, you are either brainwashed with propaganda living in Russia or you're too invested to open your eyes. Your shitty President Putin is the one invading Europe, not the other way around. So this is what I'm talking about. This is the lunatics that are in the Ukrainian side, and I hate the fact that these are Americans, that they know that our country has been waging war against the world. I know because I served in the military and I went to war. But we have these lunatics who will condemn another country and spit into the air and not realize that they're spitting onto their face. So this guy right here is absolute garbage, and I offered him, I said, hey, come online and let's debate this. Let's do an open debate on a live. He didn't agree. So I'm just saying, this is the garbage, this is the trash. Ukraine 3 years later, and this is the kind of, he's doing a fundraiser. He's doing a fundraiser. As an American, I condemn the proxy wars and the wars against the world. Like, I hate the fact that we do that. But we have these lunatics who are on the Ukrainian side who want the world to burn. By the way, I missed the donation, sorry. Noah Rayekaiba. Current democracy is trash because so many idiots being allowed to participate. Personally, the system in Starship Troopers is the best. Right to vote should be earned through service to the nation. Yes, this is an old way of accepting service in politics. Used to be, actually, in the old days, was service to your nation, and that would gain merit. And we lost that somewhere around the road to here, and it is what it is. But a lot of people who are on the other side, and I'm not even on the side, but they push me towards the Russian side. I live in Russia, but I'm not a Z guy. I live in Russia and I support my wife's existence. She's Russian and my future kids will be Russian, but I'm not like a propaganda pusher for nobody. But we have these other guys on the other side who are absolutely crazy. So we get people like me who are in the middle, and I go bonkers. So, do we have any other questions? Thank you so much, Noah, for that comment. Yes. You know, the merit used to bring privileges in the society, but it's no more. Mr. Wonderful, have you tried writing Trump? No, impossible. Oh, you guys can Z's in chat, no worries. You guys can spam Z in chat while I get the next clip, guys. You know, personal question. Pitbull, hi Daniel from Canada, wishing you all the best. Thank you. Am I lagging again? Okay, I think I'm lagging again. Today's been rough. Okay, I think I'm lagging a little bit too much tonight. I need to figure this out. Let's see. Boom, 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 boom. Testing, testing. Okay, so. I need a new computer. By the way, that's my mom. You guys... Somebody asked a question about my mother, and my mom tuned in. I need help with this network stuff. If anybody knows how to make it okay, I'm gonna try to fix this on the yeah, this thing's done. I think I need to get out because my my guys, if you can hear me, I need to buy something to cool off this laptop. I stream